But not Hannah Montana.
It did not pan out.
And on that note, hi everyone, this is Belle.
Hello.
Who are you?
I'm Pete.
Oh my God, you're so drunk.
This is Allie. I'm also drunk.
And we are here with Pop Culture Uncovered, and we are going to talk about Legion!
Boom.
Oh my God.
So,
Yes.
alright, can we first of all, let's talk about how the first property that Bryan Singer has the least amount of involvement with is the best.
It's a winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, they're not for nothing. That's more than just a coincidence. That show is so. We were talking about this earlier about how this is a show that you have to watch 2 or 3 times an episode just to make sure you catch everything. Like we're all going to do a rewatch.
Oh, before the season
before
starts.
the season second premiere, because I know there are things that I missed.
Well, it's a yes and a no for me on that.
Why?
Because so we were watching. At least one person who is doing videos about Legion because everybody's excited about coming back. And the question was, do you need to understand Legion to enjoy it, or do you need to like really truly understand it? And to me, it's like I know that there's going to be more things I pick up the second time I watch it. Actually every episode you're rewatching at least half of it.
Yes.
Just to like, what was that? What did she say? What was that? What color
was
shirt
that?
are they wearing?
Well, yeah,
Because,
little details that you don't catch at first.
But
yeah.
at the same time, it's like the thing that I think made Legion work that was so rewarding for me is the fact that you could just watch it once and you know that you're not figuring everything out, but it doesn't like go so far above your head that you have to watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it awesome for a lot of people who were maybe scared
To watch
something that was that was going to be out there and going to be a thinker and going to be weird.
Well, it's so funny to me that they much like Jessica Jones, they were really afraid to do it. They were really afraid to do Legion, and then somebody at Fox went, you know what? Let's go all the way in, and so they did. And I think it's just the casting, everything about that show. I was watching a behind the scenes documentary about the costumes and the amount of thought that went into the little details, like you said, like who's wearing a red shirt, who's not wearing a red shirt, and those little things that you don't, all these little details that you don't realize go into the making of the show. And it's just so thoughtful. It deals with mental illness in a way that is so honest, and yet it's in the middle of a superhero genre. And it's rare to see mental illness dealt with honestly, period. But then for them to go the next level and combine that with superpowers, they do such a great job with it that, excuse me, there's so many layers to the show that it's almost, I personally feel like it's like a good book that you read and feel like you knew it, but when you go back, you notice new things. And you reread and you notice new things.
And just to dabble on the mental illness thing, watching it and realizing that this person in particular doesn't have mental illness, he has mutant powers, is just a nod to how many misdiagnoses there are.
Yeah.
And I mean, that touches home, and I'm sure to so many others where it's not necessarily a bad thing, and you can zone in on so many other aspects, and you're so much sensitive to other things. So I really loved that about the show, and how sensitive it was to that, as well as bringing light to how awful some of those institutions are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not even touching on what Legion actually is.
Which is crazy. There's so many levels to the show that it's just so smart without being smug.
Exactly. It's rewarding.
Yes!
Because when people talk about shows to me that are like where they say things like there's so many levels to it. It's so like it almost turns me off, even though that is the kind of thing that I'm into.
Right.
But hearing it without seeing it, the first thing that I think of is like, I don't want to deal with trying to figure things out, like what's going on behind this scene, that scene, and that scene. And watching Legion, like the first episode, I thought the previews absolutely did it justice because I felt like I knew what I was getting into.
Yes.
And that's so important for a TV show. Like American Gods, or unlike American Gods, for me at least.
We're going to fight, but that's a whole other
Just
podcast.
saying. But, so it set up a really good, like a feeling when I watched the first episode. I'm like, okay, I know what to expect. And then it was way more than that.
Yeah.
But there were all these levels of like, is this real? Is this in his mind? Is this a flashback? Or is it none of the above?
Yeah.
And every episode after episode had those moments where you're just like, but there was also a reward.
Yes.
Every episode had a reward. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just like we're gonna keep. This isn't Lost for like 5 seasons. We're not gonna like keep you completely in the dark and we have no plan. It's like it was so layered, and the more you watched it, the more you got rewarded for paying attention.
What were you gonna say, Allie?
So that's the fun, and like, because I've spoken to other people that have been like, this is too much of a mind trip, we can't get into it. I'm like, yes, exactly, it is a mind trip. But if you know anything about the character, it's gonna be, it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And this is just Legion. This isn't dealing with the other aspects of what's going on with him.
Yeah.
This is his mutant capability. He is
Yeah.
one of the strongest mutants
He is the strongest.
in the Marvel universe.
He's the Omega level. He's
And
the highest level of mutants.
it's
in the
not
Marvel
necessarily
universe.
going to make sense of the time.
Yeah.
And you need to understand about that character before you even get really into it. But at the same time, you can appreciate the music. The song choices that they make.
Yes.
And they're so fitting, and they tie in, and the outfits, because it's set more in like the late 70s.
It's set in it's sort of like steampunk meets the 70s,
Yeah,
which is the only way I can kind of describe the aesthetic. It's
like,
gorgeous.
Every little and you can tell every episode that they have made was just grueling hours and
Of
hours
thought.
of manpower and
Yeah.
thought, and I appreciate every single episode. Like, you will have filler episodes plenty with other shows, and I never felt like I had a filler
There was
episode.
never a filler episode with Elite. Everything,
Super requisite.
and it was really smart of them to
Yeah.
keep it to an 8 tight episodes, because they could have easily done 13 or 24. But it was a smarter move because we are so anticipating the show coming back because it was so tight and short.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that both the Netflix model and the way television itself is moving towards more of the European model of doing, 3 to 8 episodes of a series that are tight and right. And in this case, it served this show so well.
Well,
Yeah.
This show is just as memorable as it would be if it had 3 times the episodes.
I think it's more.
It's an event, and
Yes.
it's never left my conscious, like Stranger Things, it never really left my mind.
No.
And now season 2 is coming up, and there's a part of me that's almost like, already? Oh, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
It was like, no, that was like
That was way too long.
way longer ago than you remembered.
Yeah.
I mean, because as you might know from following some of my videos and or writings, I am a huge X-Men universe fan. So when this show came out, I had to dig through my comic books, which luckily they are organized by an Excel spreadsheet.
I did not know that.
You didn't?
Holy shit.
Shit, I'm learning.
That is amazing. I did not know.
Because Excel is very useful.
Amazing. I did not know.
Because Excel is very useful. So I was able to grab,
oh my God.
which they're not old. It's not like, well, I guess for some people.
There are people who are now the age of those comic books. Yes, they are old
Okay.
now.
Well, they're not old to me because I remember buying these.
Right.
And I've seen a couple of people that use this one in particular. This is Legion, right here, better known as
David
Charles.
Haller.
Yeah, David Haller, Charles Xavier's son, which he wasn't aware of. This one you will see Storm on the front of, which if you've
We're
possibly
Don't mess it up.
luckily they're not collectives, not yet. But if you watch the animated series, I'm sure you've seen the episode where Storm is in Africa battling with the Shadow King, and that ties into this
Particular series of comics.
series. And I quite recommend them. I had to read them again once this came out, just because I was so excited. I felt like a teenager again.
Whoa, there's a second Mortal Kombat.
There's a
coming out.
that'll age it a little bit.
I know. I just love the fact
Coming
that
to your Super NES.
I mean,
There
at least
you
that's WWF. I actually do have comic books that have WWE on them.
wow.
And something where there's not at all, because I also collect the 60s.
There you go.
Sure.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Legion, my mom had never read this particular arc. My mom's the first one who got me into comic books. And she bought me my first New Mutants. And she gave me her original Wonder Woman, which is now in the vault. Because she did not realize how expensive that was now. And I was like, we're going to go put that away now.
Where's the vault?
I'm not telling you squat.
That's why I always have plastic gloves by my comic book collection, because if you're going to touch anything, you're wearing gloves.
Exactly. So, one of the things that I thought was fascinating is that my mom came into this not knowing squat about who David Howell was. And she fully understood everything that was going on. Now, that also had to take, going back to the psychology of the show. My mom, when she was active duty, she worked with people who had PTSD. And so she also found that the way that the show dealt with mental illness was very true and honest to what it's like, both being the caregiver and being the person who was affected. But she came into this blind. And my mother was completely and 110% here for every single episode going, we gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Have you watched it yet? Did you watch it? And so we would talk to each other watching the show, because the show is so well written. And it's one of the truest adaptations of a comic book, period. I can honestly say I feel like Jessica Jones, Legion, and the first Iron Man and Deadpool are the truest film adaptation or television show adaptations of comic books that I've ever seen. They're so... Watchmen is too.
First half of Wonder Woman.
That's true. That's true. And then the second half combines a lot of the Rucker run. Yeah. But still, regardless, I feel like let me qualify it. For the X-Men and the MCU, these are the truest adaptations I've seen.
Notice you didn't say anything about the X-Men movies.
No, because no.
So good.
You want to fight?
Wow, you got crazy
Third
eyes.
one, like X3, you know.
You mean when I quit that movie, the movie that made me quit the X-Men franchise completely?
It was The Last Stand. What a
cinematic masterpiece. You can't even finish the sentence. Keep drinking.
So I love about Legion the things that didn't even occur to me to care about. You don't know when it's taking place.
No.
You don't know really where it's taking place, and really the context of it. It seems like a really empty world.
Yes.
You know, there's these shadowy organizations and all these people that we meet individually, but it's almost like the rest of the world is gone.
Yeah.
And we don't have any sort of context to fit around these stories, but that just adds to the mystery. There's the reward that we get at the end of the season, where it's not a big question mark. Like, we get something answered, and then we get a lot more questions, but at least we get something to reward. The casting is so on point. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
If they're not a solid foundation character, they're a scene stealer.
Yes.
You know, the idea that I don't know what Jean Smart's been doing since
24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy to see her.
Well, what killed me was that I was like, is she Emma Frost? Because everything about the way she portrays herself is so much truer than any version of Emma Frost we've gotten up until this point. That I honestly thought she was Emma Frost for the entire first half of the season. I was like, that's gotta be Emma. It's gotta be Emma. She must have fallen in love with someone and then like all hell broke loose. It's gotta be Emma.
And because she has that presence. Like, she's brilliant.
Yes.
She's intimidating.
Yes.
And like she's...
I mean,
and it's so funny you would bring her up first.
We would want an Emma Frost.
Everything we ever wanted in Emma Frost and have never gotten.
Never really got.
Yeah. Well, I mean, literally, like, it is so funny that
even
you would
depending
say,
on what age they threw at us.
it didn't matter. It's so funny that she was the first person you said, because I was like, I don't know how Jean Smart didn't get nominated for all the awards, because her performance, Dan Stevens is a freaking, just, I did not know, because I watched him on Downton Abbey, and I had no idea. Well, that's not true. Because there was the one movie where I saw he had the potential for this, and we might want to do a throwback review for that.
Okay.
Where he's a
Serial
killer, and it's amazing. But
speaking of,
I had no idea he was capable of something like this. But Jean Smart, even with knowing what she was capable of when she was on 24, I had no idea. She blew the doors off in this show, and she's so good. But everyone is cast perfectly.
Yeah.
The Carries.
Best.
The Carries.
The Carries are amazing.
Oh
this
my
connection
God.
between the two very unlike. That's you feel the connection, and you feel the difference.
And Bill Irwin, who never gets enough credit for his entire body of work. I mean, guys, if you don't know who Bill Irwin is, I would strongly recommend that you look him up, because for people who are in the comedy world, Bill Irwin has been around. I don't know how many of you, I'm definitely aging myself. Who remembers Don't Worry, Be Happy?
The song?
Mm-hmm. Bill Irwin is in that.
Song I wrote.
Yes.
No.
Bill Irwin is in that video.
Don't worry.
He's the guy dancing in the video. And he's been a singer, a dancer, and a comedian for longer than I think any of the three of us have been alive.
Don't worry, be happy now.
Oh, see, I didn't know I was
Don't worry.
Where is this singer you're doing from?
Be happy.
But his amazing, everyone in the show is so, Tommy, every single character in the show is so perfectly cast, so well written. Each of them have full lives. That, and it goes back to our previous drunk review about, Gina Prince Bythewood. Each of them have interior lives that don't depend on David. David is the spanner in the works, but they are each fully rounded characters.
They touch on their backstory.
Yeah, but even
well.
if they hadn't, because the acting and the writing is so good, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about the show. There is no throwaway characters. Do you guys remember the scene when we see his girlfriend before everything goes pear-shaped?
Yes.
And this is the brilliance of the writing of the show.
Oh,
That character could have, on any other show, the girlfriend who was around before everything went pear-shaped,
Yes.
would have been a throwaway character, and we would have never seen her again.
Threw a fit in front of her and...
Yeah.
Okay.
On this show, because it's so well written, when Tomini and Sid go to find her, she's tied into the conspiracy, because that's how well written this show is. There is no throwaway characters on the show. If you see somebody, and even if they don't have a speaking part, if they're not dead, they're going to turn up to be important later on. And that's one of the things I love about the show and about the thought that went into it. The sheer terror of the show, this angriest boy in the world. I had fucking nightmares about that character. That thing.
That
First of all,
awful.
I don't like dolls and I don't like puppets. And that thing combined both of those things to make me scared as shit.
But the yellow-eyed, love piece, that was just as bad, because it was like, I kept thinking to myself, is this Mojo?
Yes!
Is this,
I knew it was the Shadow King immediately.
See, I thought Farouk.
Yeah, my first thought was, oh shit, it's the Shadow King. And then I was like, nothing good's gonna happen, fam. But then if it was Mojo, that would have been just as bad in a way. It would have been a different kind of bad, but it still would have been a different bad.
That would have been fun.
It would have been the kind of fun that right before you're laughing right before your head
Like
gets
he'd
chopped
be out
off.
of space somewhere, and there would have been like.
Well, he did get picked up by a Pokeball at the end, so.
The
Right?
theme show episode was really fun.
Yes. Much like the similar one on Mr. Robot. That's what I was thinking about.
Star Jam.
Where there was the kind of the theme show episode, but everyone is perfectly dead. Can we talk about
Yes.
Aubrey Plaza?
Hey,
There's so many things.
it was the perfect idea because you have these monsters at varying degrees, from like the dog to
The angriest boy in the world.
And then right smack in the middle you have like
Winnie.
Yeah. And she's so brilliant and so odd. And the funny thing is,
and it never occurs to us to be afraid of her until it's too late.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
she's just
Because it's just
the id, or like she's like that like parrot on the shoulder. She's just the Iago, like making commentary on things and cracking wise. And you're like, oh, she's the dark character. Maybe she represents like his dark side, or like
Yes.
And then it's like, oh no,
She is the Shadow King.
Dark. But that menace still comes with her.
Yes.
Like every aspect of every incarnation has got its own thing, but there's still menace.
Yes.
Maybe not in the dog. But there's definitely menace to Aubrey Plaza, and it's so clever because she knows who she is, and it's almost like she's showing up being like, hi, I'm Aubrey Plaza, you just watched me for like, 6 odd seasons on Parks and Rec, and I'm never going to be disassociated from that.
So let me
And
take
so
it to its extreme.
They play with
to
it
its
so much.
logical conclusion.
They
Yes.
play with it so much. I'm like, oh, here's Aubrey Plaza being that. Wow, what a great idea to cast her. And then you're like, oh
shit! Yes!
And then
Yes!
it turns that corner, and like
Yes!
the scene where she's dancing inside his mind.
Yes!
She's cutting so loose, and that's when like even though she is to me April Ludgate up until that point, all of a sudden she is just like I forget who she ever was before.
Yes, and that was so funny because I saw her and I kept thinking, oh my god, I love her in this part. This is, and like you said, it seemed like the next evolution of April Ludgate. Like if they put April Ludgate in an insane asylum, and then when you realize, and like you didn't know to be afraid, which is what the Shadow King does, which is such great writing because you don't think to be afraid. I mean, the first time he appeared to him was as a puppy.
Yeah.
It never occurs.
As a baby.
Yeah, as a baby, it never occurs to you to be afraid, and that, in all honesty, is the best kind of villain that you don't know that you should be afraid of.
They're so abstract but real.
Yes.
Trusting, but from an outside perspective, it's distrusting.
Yeah.
But that's the Shadow King. He messes with your mind. He will mess with any mind that he can get his hands
hooks into.
on.
Yep.
And I mean, that's what he battled with Professor Xavier for.
Yeah.
That's why he was into the Shadow Planes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, I guess, the timeline. We are not quite sure where does this play out.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the Marvel Universe, with the X-Men universe, you're never quite sure
Where anything is falling.
of all the time travel that they've done, and
Poorly.
keep the movies out of this because
Yes.
it has nothing to do with this. So, yeah,
Well,
not quite sure.
we're not quite sure what the timeline, but speaking to that, because as you should know by now, and if you didn't, now you know.
Now you know.
Disney recently acquired Fox and the rights to all of the X-Men properties. And that being the case, one of the biggest questions that we've been seeing in the geek community is how to bring the X-Men into the MCU. Excuse me, which for all my faults with the MCU is still the far better written franchise. By far. By far. So how do you do it? And Legion is the perfect show to be the tie between the two. And I'm not I have absolutely no problem if we ignore everything that happened in the X-Men universe that's not Deadpool. I literally am completely fine if, after this next X-Men movie when Jean Grey kills everybody again, we just go, okay, we're starting over, and have Deadpool and Legion be the ties. Because to me, they're perfect, and they make a firm point of establishing in the television series that David is a reality warper, much like Wanda Maximoff. With Infinity Wars coming up, we don't know how Infinity Wars is going to go down. Originally, it was supposed to be 2 movies. Uh-oh, Allie's leaving.
No, I drank an entire cup. I need more.
Okay.
I just need...
Allie's getting more alcohol. Because we're talking about the X-Men, and Allie's least favorite thing ever is the X-Men movies.
I get triggered.
She's triggered.
I'm scared.
You should be. You haven't been here for one of these. Yeah.
I just the entire thing. You'll find that out on
So...
Pete wasn't ready.
Sorry, Pete. I'm sorry.
Pete wasn't ready.
I'm so sorry.
So...
I'm sorry, not sorry.
The X-Men movies... One of the things that always killed me about the X-Men movies...
One?
Just the first one.
Well, we got so much time.
Yeah, exactly. Is how they could cast all of these actors who are Broadway vets, Oscar winners, Emmy winners, and get the worst performances out of them. I feel like Halle Berry, who we all know can act. We've seen her in other things. And we know she can act. We know. And I feel like every movie she's phoning it in. Every single one. She's phoning it in. Or they
would it have something to do with the director?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to go to. Or,
I still
and this
wanted Angela Bassett.
Yeah. But I thought Halle Berry was a good choice when I thought she was going to actually be directed.
Right.
Yeah. Because if you notice, when she's well directed, she gives performances that are insane. That are absolutely insane. She won an Oscar for a damn reason. Monsters Ball's hardcore. But at the same time, it's like, I don't understand. Or they become Wolverine circumcised. We have not actually had an X-Men movie until we got the Legion, which again, as we stated earlier, is the franchise that Bryan Singer is the least involved in. Is the best X-Men adaptation other than Deadpool. The Gifted is very close, but Legion is hands down the best adaptation other than Deadpool. And with Singer being pulled away from that, how do we think, first of all, how do we think they can use Legion to tie into the MCU? And B, how do we think with Singer being gone, how is that going to affect the franchise going forward?
For Legion, at least, I think we've been watching a lot of videos. A lot of people have a lot of different theories of like, how do you blend the MCU and the X-Men, universe, and do you reset? Do you
reboot?
Do you
just
reboot?
continue
Do you
on and
just
ignore?
say, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You just do it like Batman has done, historically. And I like the idea of Legion because Legion, and to a lesser extent, The Gifted, or Gifted, have the same tonal quality to me as the Netflix TV shows.
Yes.
They're serious. They're not just serious. They're smart.
And they're talking about real issues.
And they're well written, well directed. They are not, I mean, as much as I loved Agent Carter, till I die. And have had, a love-hate relationship with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're not like those belong, in the same sort of, seriousness plane as like Supergirl.
Yeah.
It's also awesome. Or The Flash, or whatever. But these two shows in particular have a grit to them, have a weight to them, have depth, sadness, have gray characters in abundance, and are just really well shot, really well produced. And to me, because they feel very similar
to the Netflix MCU.
And for somebody who doesn't know like all of this, who owns what property, like people like us who obviously geek out on
jobs.
But for a lot of people, for people who are just casual, don't know that, who do know the difference between Marvel and DC, and that's about it. To them, it's like, well, it can just happen seamlessly.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't even necessarily need a crossover, just a reference or two, or just something that says this is a shared world, and then build out.
Go from there.
Build
yeah.
out to the movies. The thing that bothers me the most, both with, you know, the various Netflix characters and Netflix Marvel characters and Legion, is sort of like this thought, like somebody can't go from TV to movie.
Which is one of the biggest things, going to another subject that we're going to be doing another drunk review of, which is how the Netflix film series is actually lacked in not including the Netflix MCU. Or I should say the MCU film series has actually, comparatively to the next Netflix MCU, comparatively falls far short, comparatively. And they lost something in not making more of an effort to combine the two. Allie, you look like you're revving up.
Oh, I have so many things.
Go on.
So, first of all, Legion, don't touch it.
Don't mess with it.
Let it be.
Mm-hmm.
They are finally doing an X-Men universe character
Correctly. Yeah.
I do not want to see this tied into the MCU.
Ooh,
at all.
interesting.
At all. Leave it alone. If you're going to tie this in with anything, do it on the next Netflix thing. Do it on a show base. Do not bring it into the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I get it. I was very excited when X-Men was no longer doing the Sony shit. And it's Disney now. Yay, okay, we can say mutants. Please reboot everything. But don't touch what they're doing now. It's still doing gross money. That's fine. Maybe you could bring in a character like Wolverine. Because yes, you have the Avengers. Oh my god, who are the characters in the Avengers? Is one of them Wolverine? Yes. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the same actor. Yes, he's done a very good job at it. But
my pick will still be, for those of you who don't know who he is, Christian Kane would have been an amazing Wolverine.
So
my pick will always be somebody under 5'5".
Well, that's Christian Kane is.
Christian Kane could be brought in.
Yeah.
I mean, with the upcoming movies, you can select now in the X-Men universe. Do not try to bring the X-Men universe right into it.
No.
It's not ready. The fan base is not ready, and the new people are not ready.
No.
Because of how much you have fucked up the backstory.
Yep, of every single character.
There's going to be a Captain Marvel movie. Yes, please.
Yes.
Guess what? She's also an Avenger.
Yep.
So, you can have her movie by herself and then bring her in eventually. I know you have your time schedule, but it's also been broken down. We already don't have a Gambit movie. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
For not doing that.
Thank you so
much.
much.
I wanted to kill the problem.
Also, our vote for Gambit, if you have to do a Gambit movie without
Thank you,
Rogue,
Jesus.
exactly. The young man who plays Jesus on The Walking Dead is Gambit. Not only does he look like Gambit, but he fights like Gambit, and he's got the, that dude is Gambit. He fights like him, he's got the accent right, he's British, and yet he has that accent perfect, and he freaking looks like Gambit. That's who should be Gambit. As much as I love Channing Tatum, a statement I never thought I would make in real life, but he has stolen my heart by his massive dorkiness. He is not Gambit.
No.
So thank you for murdering that in the womb, and let's just move on and pretend that wasn't happening. And if you must cast the young man who plays Jesus, because that's the dude. That's the guy.
And please do a different Rogue, because
This one is still angry. She's
God.
been angry. She's been
no,
carrying
since
around
the
the
first
anger.
movie,
The
which
anger.
was Rogue was, and if anybody knows me, she is my cosplay. She is my love. She is everything about me. And I was ultimately destroyed by that movie because of the choices, the actors that
They chose.
picked, and the fact that she gave up her powers. You have never read a comic book, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And we get it. You want to have a fan base, but remember your fan base are comic book readers, and we're not that rare of a breed anymore. It's more popular. We are more passionate, and we are out there, and we are watching,
We want
and we do
good
reviews.
adaptations.
And I feel like the properties that have done the best, or the movies, the TV shows that have done the best, have finally been the ones that did right by their creators, by their audience,
and that's
by
why
the
I
people
say
who love
don't touch Legion. Don't.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind if I don't want them to
doing so well
touch
right now.
anything with it. What I'm saying is that Legion, in and of itself, is the perfect bridge point. You can let Legion be Legion, and use that as literally all you have to do is have him use his powers and step into the MCU
It could be a
without
bridge,
messing up
I guess.
the actual thing. And we keep hearing that Kevin Feige, homie, I appreciate all that you do. And I'm not trying to give you crap. I truly appreciate all that you've done and how much, we wouldn't be having this discussion if it wasn't for Kevin Feige. However, the MCU has a history of treating mental illness like a joke and sensitive topics like jokes. Not the Netflix MCU, the main MCU. Let me clarify. The Netflix MCU does not play around with that stuff, and it takes it very seriously. But the main MCU treats mental illness and trauma as if it's quippable. There are too many quips.
Even with Iron Man 2.
Even with Iron Man 2, where we really didn't talk about the fact that Tony Stark has massive PTSD. And needs to be in all
even
therapy.
with the bird.
Yeah, he needs to be in therapy forever. Yeah. Everyone in the MCU needs to be in therapy. One of the things, speaking of Tony's PTSD, because Legion deals so well with mental illness and is so much more sensitive than anything we've seen in the MCU, dealing with that, they could use that between his world warping powers and the honesty with which they deal with mental illness. Those are two ways that they could do it. So and going to what you were saying earlier about how don't mess with Legion. The formula is right, don't mess with it. Let Legion be the guide. Instead of trying to turn Legion into an MCU property, let Legion instead affect the MCU properties, if that makes sense. So speaking to that, because someone said Avengers versus X-Men. First of all, if you were to even try to touch Avengers versus X-Men, you would need to go off of these 50 plus years of backstory that's involved with that. Secondly, ignorant person who said that Avengers versus X-Men, Wolverine versus Captain America. No! Avengers versus X-Men, which A, was a terrible comic, but B, was not about Wolverine and Captain America. Stop trying to put Wolverine's dick in everything. That story was the focus, and which is how we should know.
We know you liked Logan because for some unsort reason that got actually good reviews.
What is beyond me is that as much as I know everybody wants to jerk off to Wolverine, which is why the X-Men movies are not X-Men movies, they're Wolverine movies. But Avengers vs. X-Men boils down to these two friends, Captain America and Cyclops, who have been friends for anyone who actually has read a fucking comic book for longer than I've been alive, having an ideological difference because Captain America was trying to prevent something, which is how we should have fucking known he was a Hydra agent, because all of a sudden he's like, yeah, it's totally okay to kidnap somebody's granddaughter, and because she might be evil. Avengers versus, you know how she gets, you've seen us do this before. You know how this one gets about the X-Men franchise? That's me talking about Avengers versus X-Men. Cyclops was right, okay? And I am still mad because we should have known he was a Hydra agent, because all of a sudden Steve Rogers doesn't believe in free will.
And see, I'm an X-Men agent, so I say Cyclops is a douchebag and he chooses wrong sides too many of a time.
But
I can't stand his face.
And I love me some Scott Summers. And we made the dog run over.
The dog is troubled.
The dog is troubled. But suffice to say, to put Avengers versus X-Men as the first thing for Pete. Pete's like, I don't know, Dylan, it's fine.
I'm so sorry.
Poor Pete.
I'm so
story out of the gate cannot be Avengers versus X-Men people, because that would have to build upon relationships that do not exist. Which is why you let Legion and Deadpool be the bridges between the two universes. Because Deadpool has connections to Loki, and he has connections to Iron Man, to Tony Stark. There's still floating around the theory that Deadpool is actually one of Loki's children that Odin hid from him. That's still a theory that has been unconfirmed, but it would explain a great deal about Wade if he is. And the fact that he drives Loki absolutely fucking crazy. One character in the entire Marvel universe who makes Loki be like, you need to calm down and sit in the corner for a minute, it would be his kid.
The next movie coming out, obviously we're going to have some cable action.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm here for it.
I'm so ready for that.
I'm so ready for it.
And
Domino!
That will touch into not the fact that time travel is a thing.
Yes.
It lists a lot of places and a lot of characters.
Mm-hmm.
I am hoping to bring Bishop into that eventually. I think that could be an amazing bridge, because it is an amazing bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, they could do an outer space spectrum where you have the Shi'ar Empire
and the Guardians of the Galaxy.
They've been hinting on for so long and not doing it correctly. I do not like it because I hate Jean Grey. But if you do the Phoenix at any single point, please bring it in when you do the Cable and the Bishop and the outer space with the Shi'ar Empire, and you have the Engral Crystal, and everything will be okay in my heart. Will that happen? I'm not sure. But
That'd be a soft way to let in the MCU from the other end.
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
I'm still everything you said like 5 minutes ago.
Sorry.
Well, no, it's okay.
I might have gone off point.
It's okay. No, it's okay, because that is a good point.
Because ultimately we were talking about how do you make those.
And have the Guardians run into the Shi'ar Empire. Have either the Guardians or Deadpool or Legion be the connecting points. Because here's the thing, I understand again how much everybody likes Hugh. I love Hugh Jackman because I actually do theater.
He's amazing.
And as an actor, I love him. But I don't like Wolverine. I've never liked Wolverine. So that's the first thing. And secondly, I know you guys can love Wolverine, it's okay. But secondly, he is short and angry. I'm tall and angry.
He was probably the best scripted person at the time.
At the time.
And that's the thing.
Yeah. How do you have James Marsden and just waste him?
How do you have
everyone and just waste them?
How do you have Suki?
Right.
How do you have Suki as Rogue?
And then, I'm not gonna touch her.
So
that's a whole other conversation.
Me either. I'm Rogue.
You did make a whole bunch of brain explosions happen in my head though, because I finally figured out what the difference is. Is you're talking about introducing character. If you are gonna, which this is the long shot of it, but if you are gonna tie in, the current MCU with the X-Men universe and everything that's been reacquired, it only makes sense to do it in a way that makes sense. Follow me.
Okay.
It's linking characters to characters that they already are linked to.
Yes.
So, that took me a minute. But
okay,
characters in the X-Men world that are already linked to MCU characters in a very fundamental way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a character that's part of this person's part of their rogues gallery or part of their closest inner circle.
Yes.
And not in the way that everyone is clamoring for when they say, X-Men versus Avengers, which is this way of we're just going to introduce them the way Batman versus Superman.
Yes, which
and the way
was
Justice
a
League
disaster.
happened, which is you know these guys, smash! And
now kiss.
and I think there's probably a big temptation to say here's this big ass MCU universe full of characters you already know, and hey, you kind of already know these guys, so why reboot them? Let's just jam them together and have them fight each other. And it's probably not going to happen that way, but I feel like there are people who want it to happen more that way than in a gradual unfolding of introducing characters who have already interacted with each other.
Like Kitty Pryde and Star-Lord? Yeah.
And that's my.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal.
No. I'm saying that's what you just said is exactly it.
I'm like Kitty Pryde and Star-Lord, or I don't know, She-Hulk and any of the Guardians of the Galaxy, or Iron Man and Storm, who had a relationship, and Storm and Thor, who were involved, and Storm and Loki, who were involved for everybody. This is how This is how you know people. And Storm and T'Challa. Yeah.
Wait.
Who she married. Hi, baby.
Can we dabble upon that for a second? Because of Storm's background. Where we
T'Challa should know about her, at least.
Where we had a little mind seeker, which we were talking about earlier. Which she had fought.
She fought the Shadow King. Storm, in all honesty, of all the characters, Storm and Rogue are the perfect tie through from Legion to the MCU. They're the ones of all the characters. Storm and Rogue are the perfect tie through from Legion to the MCU. They're the ones with the most connections to every other main character in the MCU.
And that's what I want to do again. I want to do again. I want a Storm series.
Holy shit.
I want to see her backstory. I want to see...
You mean you don't want her to be playing possum in background to Wolverine?
Are you fucking
kidding me? And Jean Grey's crotch?
We
go all the way NP. You gotta get ready.
reading the comic books, even the freaking cartoons that I grew up with, Storm was just... And she is a force to be recognized.
Yes. Who would you cast? That's not me. I would have to lose so much weight.
Right now? Oh, dear Lord. So now I'm going to be picking through Black Panther movie.
Right.
I would cast Anna Diop.
Anna Diop? Oh, okay.
But she's playing Starfire. She's going to be Starfire on the Teen Titans series. But she would be so perfect.
So the sister.
I know, right?
The sister.
Ooh. Oh my God.
Because she'd be
Storm. No. From True Blood and from Queen Sugar.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's Storm.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. That is fucking Storm.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh
yes.
my God. Yes.
Okay.
Magic is happening right now.
How she looks like her. She's built like her. We know she physically can fight like her.
She has dominance. Beautiful
personified.
Woman. Yes. Oh
yes.
my God. Yes.
You guys. Get Rutina Wesley to be Storm.
Thank you.
Rutina Wesley is Storm.
That would be amazing.
If you're watching this, Disney, if you're watching this, fire Rutina Wesley, throw all the money at her and say, please, beg her.
That would be the perfect Storm.
That's Storm.
The perfect Storm.
That's Storm.
Perfect Storm.
Yeah.
And if you want to cast Rogue.
No, it's Perfect Storm now.
Hi, I'm here.
Let her have it.
Yes. Just give it to her. Just beg her. Go to her house with a truck
of
money.
But also, if you want Rogue, non-actress.
With a new face.
I'm just saying. Hashtag just saying.
I've been playing her since I was the ripe age of 8.
All right.
I know her quims. I know her outfits because I've sewed them a lot.
Wait, quims? I don't think that's not quite the word you were looking for. Quips?
Quips.
Qualls?
No quips.
I don't like you eat her quims.
I know.
I need to see.
I know all about Rogue. About Rogue and
Quirks?
That's the word you're looking for.
No. She's not quirky.
I'm just gonna keep drinking.
Thank you. That's why I provided the alcohol.
It's so much alcohol.
But anywho, Bobsy.
So, to wrap up.
Are we wrapping?
Yes. Maybe.
Yes.
What were we talking about?
How we would do the MCU, and I think Pete hit the nail on the head.
I do.
Which is that you use characters who have a natural, organic connection to characters who are in the MCU. So, you use David because of his superpowers. Because he takes on, each personality has a different power. You use his connection to Scarlet Witch. And to a lesser extent, Stephen Strange and Loki. you use Deadpool's connection to Loki and Spider-Man and Iron Man. You use Storm's connection to T'Challa and Iron Man and Thor and Loki, which makes her sound like a hoe. But they were obsessed with her, not the other way around.
Have you heard about Rogue?
I mean, and I wasn't going to say nothing. But
I have nothing to say.
I mean,
but
she had a baby at some point.
Right.
I'm like, not about babies, so that's kind of fun.
what you use is the organic connections. Do not try to force something. And have the courage to go, okay, once this last X-Men movie is done, let's start fresh. Let Legion be the guide. Let Deadpool be the fun flavor. Legion is the recipe. Deadpool is the nice flavor you add in for your own to make it special. And then the cake is the MCU.
Well, I'm going to just say a little final
The
note.
sprinkles are Bryan Singer.
Well, as far as...
You're welcome.
You're asshole.
As far as
You almost
Stan
made me
Lee
speak
goes...
out. Oh, good tequila.
A little... It's good tequila.
Don't make me spit out the tequila.
But we're going to talk serious right now. Stan Lee, with his vision of the X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
and which was brought in by Legion,
Mm-hmm.
and he was touching on very serious
Serious
aspects,
topics, yep.
where it is racism, mental illness,
Homophobia.
sexism, homophobia.
Mm-hmm.
He was bringing it into light in the writing and the characters that he was creating.
Mm-hmm.
God bless you, Stanley. We love you.
Yes.
And we just want
Your work to be honored.
we want the representation of your image and your writing to be brought to what we saw, what we understood.
And don't forget Avi Arad either.
Yeah.
We want the work that they did to be shown the way it should have been from jump.
Like, bless the new readers. Thank you so much for coming in and appreciating this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's been around longer than any
The
of us
old-
have been alive.
the old
It's
people, elderly people.
I know. Well, actually, technically,
Elders. Geek elders.
The elders.
are we the middle? Because my mom, I think, was the first generation of
I
X-Men
may be an
readers.
elders.
Our parents were the first generation of X-Men readers, and we're the second generation. So the newbies coming up.
It's always been on point.
Mhm.
And
We just want good shit. We want the
We-
stuff that
we-
we grew up
we've
with to
always,
be treated
yeah,
with respect.
It's been respect, and
And
equal representation was another thing.
they were talking about representation before that was even a thought.
Like,
And we
And-
want that to be shown in the work.
I'm gonna bring in Black Panther real quick,
Yeah.
because there was a reason the Black Panther comic book came out, and there was the Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was finally a and I'm sorry, yes, I'm a white girl. I also know a little bit history. There was, right after that, there was the Black Panther Party. Because they had a platform to stand on, and they finally felt, not finally, but there was people standing behind them that were like, yes, we care.
And
we
we're
care about
behind
you, and we want to be beside you.
Yeah.
And we're going to carry on.
So the X-Men, that's what the X-Men mean to me. And I just want to see that honored and not just be thrown away so that we can talk about Wolverine some more.
Yeah.
Because that's the X-Men is so much more than
It's
Wolverine.
always been so much more.
So much more than Wolverine. So,
On that note,
This is
sorry,
Val.
that was really
It's a drunk
deep.
review.
yeah, I know, we are very drunk. We've gotten a little maudlin. This is Belle.
This is Pete.
This is Pete.
Okay.
This is Allie.
And we are
And this is
hella drunk.
Margaritas.
And we are drinking.
On
and
Taco Tuesday.
On Taco Tuesday.
Untapped.
Oh, well, we're going to have to fix that. Oh, time to drink, baby.
Snap.
And then you can find us at popcultureuncovered.com, PC Uncovered on Twitter, Instagram, and Pop Culture Uncovered on Facebook and Tumblr. Find us there. If you like this drunk review, like and subscribe, and we will see you later. Woo!
And please comment. I love commenting back.
Yes. Just know if you start something, we won't finish it.
I can finish it. I read a book.
Read a book.
Read a book.
This is me now!